Joe Rogan has stepped into the Diddy conversation again, and this time the discussion is much bigger than one celebrity. On his podcast, Rogan raised questions about how power moves through the entertainment business and whether some of the people surrounding a famous star can remain hidden while the main person takes all the attention. That idea has caused a strong reaction because the Diddy case already involves many years of relationships, business deals, celebrity friendships, and public events. The question at the center of this discussion is simple but serious. Was Diddy really acting on his own, or could there have been a much wider circle of people around him who knew about his activities, benefited from his influence, or simply looked the other way? Some people online believe the answers may reach far beyond Diddy. Others argue that these ideas are being built from rumors and assumptions instead of hard proof. That difference matters, but it has not stopped the debate. So, in this video, we are going to follow the power structure described in the source material. We will start with Diddy and then move toward executives, celebrities, lawyers, and other powerful figures who have been mentioned in public discussions. We will also look at why some names seem to receive more scrutiny than others, why certain stories spread much faster than others, and why Joe Rogan's public discussion has made people ask even bigger questions. This does not mean every theory is true. It also does not mean that every person connected to Diddy is guilty of anything. A person can attend the same party, know the same celebrity, or work for the same company without being part of criminal behavior. Those basic facts are important when looking at a story filled with strong claims. Still, people want to understand how someone as powerful as Diddy could remain at the center of so many relationships for so long. His career was built on music, branding, business parties, and access to major stars. That gave him a network that reached across entertainment. Once the legal problems began, people naturally started looking at that network again. Joe Rogan's role in the story is important because his podcast reaches a massive audience. When he asks a question on air, millions of people hear it and often repeat the same question online. That does not make the question true, but it can move an issue from a small internet discussion into the wider public conversation. Rogan has discussed the idea that powerful people do not always act alone. Sometimes, according to the theory, one public figure can become the visible face while other people with money, influence, or connections stay in the background. That is the idea that has made many viewers compare the Diddy story with older scandals involving other wealthy and connected figures. The comparison with Jeffrey Epstein is especially important in this discussion. Epstein's case involved a huge network of wealthy and famous contacts, and the public has spent years asking who knew what and when. The fact that someone knew Epstein did not prove that person committed a crime, but the wide network created questions that continued long after the main criminal cases. Now, some people are applying the same thinking to Diddy. They are asking whether the public has focused so heavily on one man that it has missed the people and systems around him. That is the real issue we are exploring here. Not a proven secret pyramid, but the possibility that a powerful entertainment network can make responsibility hard to see.
In jail for the rest of his life. I think he's probably going to get
think he's
hit up.
insane, though?
I don't know. I don't even think it matters. I mean, it's a lot of it is.
But then it's just another Epstein. It's another Ghislaine Maxwell, where somebody gets indicted and nobody else indicted for trafficking kids to
right to no one. Right. We're like, what is the next crazy thing that's going to explode in the news? Is Bill Clinton's going to have an OnlyFans? Like, what is going to happen? What is the next thing that's going to make us all go, what the f? Like, what the f is going on?
It's coming.
Like, you know, how many guys were on video saying, "Ain't no party like a Diddy party"? How many people like openly talked about being there?
LeBron?
Yeah, how about Ashton Kutcher? All these people. Like, you guys all went, you didn't see nothing?
Before we can understand the larger theories, we have to understand what the source material says about Diddy's legal troubles. According to the script, Diddy was arrested and later faced major federal charges. Prosecutors allege that he used wealth, influence, and fear to control people and push them into situations they did not freely choose. A major part of the public conversation has centered on the private events often referred to as freak-offs. These gatherings have been described in lawsuits, testimony, and media coverage as sexual events where drugs, workers, and recording equipment were allegedly involved. The claims are disturbing, but they are still claims unless supported and proven through reliable evidence or court findings. The source material says that more than 120 people have come forward with allegations, and that some of the claims involve minors. Those are extremely serious accusations. At the same time, it is important to understand the difference between a person making an accusation and a court establishing that an event happened. The documentary connected to 50 Cent added more public attention to the case. It encouraged viewers to look at Diddy's history, his businesses, his relationships, and the people around him. Once that happened, the public conversation naturally expanded. That is where Joe Rogan's discussion becomes important. During one of the podcast conversations described in the source, Rogan and a guest discussed whether Diddy might cooperate with investigators and potentially provide information about other people. The question was not simply whether Diddy would sing. It became a larger question about whether a major case could expose relationships that had remained private for years. Rogan then brought up Jeffrey Epstein. His point was based on a pattern he believed he saw in the public record. Epstein was prosecuted for crimes involving minors, and Ghislaine Maxwell was later convicted for helping him. Yet people have continued to ask how much his wider circle knew and whether other people were involved in wrongdoing. A social connection alone does not prove criminal behavior, but the size and power of the network made the questions difficult to ignore. The same thing is now happening with Diddy. People want to know who attended events, who worked closely with him, who handled business deals, who provided services, and who may have witnessed unusual behavior. These are reasonable questions for investigators and journalists, but the answers cannot be based only on online theories. The script also moves toward major music executives, including Sir Lucian Grange, the head of Universal Music Group. Because Universal is one of the largest companies in the music business, its leadership naturally becomes part of any discussion about industry power. The source material references allegations in the Lil Rod lawsuit involving Grange and other people. It suggests that major executives may have known about Diddy's parties or relationships. These are legal allegations, however, and being named in a lawsuit is not the same as being found guilty of a crime. That distinction should stay clear throughout this story. The larger point is that major labels do not just release music. They also control contracts, distribution, marketing, money, and career opportunities. When someone becomes a superstar, many layers of business support exist behind that person. If a star is accused of serious wrongdoing, viewers naturally ask who was around him, who worked with him, and whether warning signs were ever noticed.
Thought these words would come out my mouth, but Candace Owens is onto something, and that did not feel comfortable at all. So Candace says the reason mainstream news is not picking up this lawsuit, is not paying attention to Diddy at all, is because of this man right here, Lucian Grange. He is one of the most powerful men in Hollywood and music. And he been up in Diddy's room. So this man right here is Sir Lucian Charles Grange. He's been the CEO of Universal Music Group since 2010, so you know he done seen some shit. So I had to go to the damn documents. I had to see if this man was actually named, and he is. As you can see, it says Lucian Charles Grange, and it also says Universal Music Group. On top of that, it says Ethiopia. I cannot fuck up her last name. I refuse to. But she was also a big person in Universal Music Group. And then Christina Coramham, Lord forgive. But she was like Diddy's second hand.
The source material goes deeper into allegations connected to the Lil Rod lawsuit. It says that Grange and other Universal executives were named in connection with claims about Diddy's parties and business circle. It also describes allegations involving adult performers, drugs, and underage girls. These claims are serious, but they must remain in the category of allegations. A lawsuit gives one side's account of events. It does not automatically establish that every person mentioned did what the lawsuit says. That is something a court, evidence, and the legal process have to determine. Still, those allegations have created a much bigger question about the music industry. If executives, managers, and business leaders are around a powerful artist for years, what responsibility do they have when concerns are raised? Should they investigate? Should they step away? Should they report something? Those questions matter whether the person involved is Diddy or anyone else. Candace Owens has also been mentioned in the source because she questioned why some parts of the story did not receive the same attention as other celebrity controversies. That criticism reflects a wider feeling among some viewers that media coverage can be uneven. There are many possible reasons for that. Some may have better documents. Some may involve lawsuits that are easier to report. Others may be harder to verify. The lack of coverage alone does not prove that someone is being protected. Then the discussion turns to Jay-Z. Diddy and Jay-Z have known each other for decades. They have worked in the same music circles, attended many of the same events, and built major careers during the same era. Diddy has also spoken about Jay-Z being one of very few people who could call him Sean, his real first name. That close relationship has caused many people online to ask how much the two men knew about each other's private lives. But again, a friendship is not evidence of criminal involvement. This is where online commentary often becomes dangerous.
There's only one person.
Oh, go on.
And I call him Sean. That's Jay-Z. We call each other Sean.
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody else could call me Sean.
He's the only person who's Sean approved.
There's not a single person that
outside
should be,
of family.
That should be outside of my mother.
Okay,
That should be calling me. Yeah, that should be calling me Sean.
Someone sees two celebrities together and assumes that the relationship proves they shared everything. That is not how evidence works. People can be friends for years and still know very little about each other's private decisions. The fair question is not, was Jay-Z involved? The fair question is, what evidence exists about Jay-Z's knowledge of or involvement in any specific allegation? That is a much more useful question. Jaguar Wright has made her own public claims about Diddy, Jay-Z, and the wider music industry. She has appeared on interviews and podcasts and has argued that powerful people are not always asked the same questions as everyone else. The source material mentions an interview with Piers Morgan and claims that the full episode later became difficult to find. That fact has caused some viewers to believe the interview was deliberately removed. But there are many ordinary reasons an online video can disappear, including licensing disputes, platform rules, legal complaints, or changes made by the publisher. Wright also questioned why some major celebrities were not asked about certain rumors during high-profile interviews. She described Diddy and Jay-Z in extremely harsh language, but those statements represent her views and should not be treated as established findings. Another part of the discussion involves legal professionals. The entertainment business depends heavily on powerful lawyers. Major stars often hire the same attorneys who represent other famous clients. The source names Alan Grubman as an example and explains that lawyers can become important links between artists, companies, and executives. That does not make a lawyer part of a secret network. It shows how concentrated the entertainment business can be. Lawyers also use legal tools such as contracts, confidentiality agreements, and settlements. These can keep private information from becoming public. But the existence of an NDA is not itself proof of a crime or a cover-up. If a celebrity has private recordings, sensitive documents, or damaging stories about other powerful people, that information could create leverage. The source material turns that idea into a theory that Diddy may have been collecting material that could be used to control others. The public has seen reports about large amounts of digital evidence being seized during searches connected with the case. But no viewer outside the investigation can honestly say what every file contains. Some may involve innocent people who were simply present at an event.
Between Diddy and Epstein, it's good. There's probably several thousand hours of footage here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I should say, I think you voted for Biden.
I'd like to see a matchup of those, call it the top 100 puppet masters on the Epstein client list.
Do you think there's some overlap?
Strong overlap. Strong overlap.
When are we going to see that list, do you think?
I don't know.
Will that ever come out, do you think?
You know, I think part of why Kamala's getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes. And Gates.
And Gates.
Yeah.
And I only ask that because you just look at them and you're like, that's a nervous person right there. I don't know. I mean, I assume you know them. Yeah.
This is where the comparison with Epstein becomes even stronger in the minds of online commentators. The source presents a theory that Diddy and Epstein may have created private environments where wealthy or famous people could escape normal public attention. In that theory, private gatherings could become places where people were watched, recorded, or placed in compromising situations. These locations are sometimes described online as honeypots. The word sounds dramatic, but the idea is simple. Create a private setting where people feel safe, then collect information that could later create pressure or influence. There is no confirmed evidence in the source proving that Diddy was running an intelligence operation. There's also no confirmed proof that his parties were designed for organized blackmail. These are theories that grew from questions about recording secrecy and the people who attended. Joe Rogan's discussion helped bring those questions to a much wider audience. One of the main questions from the podcast discussion was whether Diddy was acting alone or whether someone above him was directing events. That question is attractive because it creates a simple picture, one visible person at the center, with more powerful people hidden behind him. But real life is usually more complicated. A celebrity can be powerful in his own world without being controlled by someone else. A business leader can influence an artist without directing everything the artist does. A friend can attend the same event without knowing what happened privately. That is why every claim has to be checked separately. The source also mentions Jennifer Lopez because of her past relationship with Diddy. The question raised is whether someone who dated Diddy and spent time around his social circle would have noticed warning signs. That is impossible to know from the outside. Someone can be close to a person and still not see their private behavior. A public relationship may show only a small part of a person's life. The script asks whether Lopez warned anyone, but the absence of a known public warning does not prove that she knew about illegal behavior. These are difficult questions because people often assume silence means guilt or loyalty. Silence can mean many things. It can mean someone knew nothing. It can mean someone was afraid. It can mean someone was unsure what was happening. It can mean someone wanted to protect their privacy. Or it can mean absolutely nothing at all. That is why investigators need evidence. The source then returns to the issue of thousands of hours of footage. If investigators did seize a large amount of digital material, the public naturally wants to know what is inside. But viewers should remember that prosecutors do not release every piece of evidence during an active case. Some recordings may be used in court. Some may be protected by privacy laws. Some may be shown only to lawyers and judges. Some may never be publicly released. The discussion about Cassie Ventura is used as another example. The public saw a video of an assault involving Diddy and Cassie that received enormous attention. The source asks why certain conduct seen by the public did not become a separate charge in the way some viewers expected. The source also discusses the way 50 Cent's documentary uses images of Bishop T.D. Jakes during sections about Diddy's parties. Some viewers believe that placement was intentional and meant to send a message. Others would say documentary editors use archival images to establish the time period or social environment. Without a statement from producers, nobody can know the editor's exact intention. T.D. Jakes has been questioned publicly about his relationship with Diddy. The source says his responses frustrated some people because they wanted a simple yes or no answer. But an unsatisfied response is still not proof of wrongdoing. The same applies to Jaguar Wright's interpretation. She argued that people around Diddy may have been there for money, access, or influence. That is her theory based on her understanding of the industry. Gene Deal, who has spoken publicly about his years around Diddy, has also raised questions about what people knew and whether recordings might eventually become public. If verified evidence is released, it could change the conversation. Until then, the responsible approach is to call the claims what they are, claims. The source material then describes what some researchers and commentators call a power pyramid. At the bottom are famous artists and entertainers who have direct relationships with each other. In the middle are gatekeepers, executives, managers, lawyers, producers, and business leaders who can influence access to money and opportunity. At the top, the theory imagines a smaller group of people with even greater influence across media, politics, business, technology, and culture. That model sounds dramatic, but there's one part of it that is easy to understand. Entertainment really does have gatekeepers. Record labels decide which artists receive major budgets. Streaming platforms decide what gets promoted. Publicists shape media coverage. Lawyers negotiate contracts. Managers control opportunities. Executives decide which projects receive support. That is normal business structure. The mistake comes when normal power structures are automatically treated as proof of a secret criminal organization. The source mentions names such as Jay-Z, Beyoncé, Oprah, and Clive Davis as examples of people who have enormous influence in entertainment. Their presence in an online theory does not prove they are part of an illegal operation. What it does show is how quickly people connect major names when they believe the industry is hiding something. Dave Chappelle's story is then used to explain why some artists feel trapped inside entertainment. Chappelle walked away from a hugely successful television show and later spoke about his concerns with the business. His famous comparison about moving from one plantation to another described a feeling that changing companies does not always mean escaping the basic power relationship. That was a metaphor about control and creative freedom. It was not proof of a secret organization, but the metaphor is still useful because it raises a real issue. Young artists often enter entertainment with dreams of freedom. Then they sign contracts, take advances, accept management deals, work with labels, and become dependent on people who control parts of their careers. The more successful they become, the more complicated those relationships can be. That does not mean every contract is abusive. It means artists need good advice, strong representation, and the ability to understand what they are agreeing to. The Diddy controversy has made those questions even more important. People are now looking at old interviews, old photographs, business relationships, and party videos and asking what they missed. That is normal after a major scandal. But memory can change. A photograph that looked harmless 10 years ago may appear suspicious after a new allegation. A joke that once seemed meaningless may suddenly be treated as a hidden message. A business relationship that was normal in the past may be re-examined under a new light. That does not make the original event proof of anything. It simply shows how new information can change the way people interpret old material. Joe Rogan's role is similar. His podcast gives people a place to discuss uncomfortable questions that mainstream media may approach more carefully. But a podcast is still a conversation. A host can ask a question without knowing the answer. A guest can offer a theory without proving it. A listener can interpret a comment differently from what the speaker intended. That is why viewers should listen closely and ask, what do we actually know? We know Diddy has faced major legal problems. We know many people have made serious allegations. We know investigators have reportedly collected evidence. We know 50 Cent's documentary has increased public attention. We know Diddy had relationships with many famous and powerful people. Beyond those points, the details must be tested one by one. Some claims may eventually be supported. That is how complicated investigations work.
So you have these guys, like a Jeffrey Epstein type guy, who works with the elite of the elite clientele. It's all movie stars, big-time politicians, world leaders, scientists, Nobel Prize winners, and they all meet together and have fascinating conversations and cocktails, and there's beautiful girls everywhere. Of course. What a great idea. Right. And if you're naive and you don't understand honeypots.
Here's the quote from Maria Farmer, who was one of the accusers from what was inside the house in New York.
Okay, she said, there were monitors inside this cabinet. I looked on the cameras and I saw toilet, bed, toilet, she said, visibly spooked. Like, I'm never going to use the restroom here and I'm never going to sleep here. You know what I mean? It was very obvious that they were like monitoring private moments. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Maria Farmer was the one who worked at Epstein's office in New York, I think.
And this was the house, Jamie?
Yeah, I was looking up stuff on the house. That was like what they found.
I wonder if the house still has fucking cameras in it somewhere that they haven't found yet.
They definitely, don't know.
Yeah, you'd have to scan the shit out of that house. You'd have to take the walls apart. There's probably listening devices inside the walls. Like, who knows? If this was like really an intelligence operation, yeah, they probably had that house fully wired.
After hearing all of these theories, it is easy to feel like there must be one hidden answer connecting every person and every event. But real investigations rarely work that way. There may not be one mastermind at the top. There may not be one secret organization controlling everything. There may simply be a large industry where powerful people build relationships, protect their reputations, and sometimes fail to act when they should. That possibility is less dramatic than a secret pyramid, but it can still be important. The biggest lesson may be about accountability. When a person becomes extremely powerful, their behavior can affect many other people. When companies become extremely powerful, their decisions can shape careers and public conversations. When celebrities build private social circles, outsiders may have no idea what happens inside them. That is why strong reporting matters. It is not enough to repeat the loudest rumor. A responsible investigation has to ask who made the claim, what evidence supports it, whether another source confirms it, and whether the person accused has responded. That approach can still produce a powerful story. The Diddy case has already shown how quickly public opinion can change when new evidence appears. Old allegations can suddenly receive attention. Former associates can speak. Lawsuits can reveal new names. Investigators can discover new material. At the same time, people accused in public discussions have legal rights and the ability to deny claims. That is why viewers should avoid turning accusations into conclusions. The comparison with Epstein is a good example. There are similarities in the public stories. Wealth, powerful connections, private gatherings, serious allegations, and questions about who else knew what. But similarities are not proof that the cases are connected. The same is true of the entertainment industry's executives, lawyers, and celebrities. A person can have a business relationship with Diddy without knowing about alleged criminal conduct. A celebrity can attend a party without knowing what happened in a private room. A lawyer can represent a controversial client without supporting that client's actions. An executive can work with a successful artist without being aware of everything happening in the artist's personal life. Those distinctions protect innocent people from being falsely accused while still allowing legitimate questions to be investigated. So the most important question is not, who is secretly at the top? The better question is, what evidence can show who knew what when they knew it and what they did afterward? That is the question investigators should follow. It is also the question journalists should follow. And it is the question viewers should keep in mind while watching documentaries, podcasts, and social media clips. Joe Rogan has created a huge platform for these conversations. 50 Cent has created another platform through his documentary work. Jaguar Wright, Gene Deal, Candace Owens, and many others have added their own interpretations. Some statements may be valuable leads. Some may be personal opinions. The only way to know the difference is to test them against evidence. If future court filings, verified recordings, official documents, or credible investigations reveal new information, the story may change again. For now, the Diddy controversy remains a story about alleged misconduct, legal battles, celebrity culture, business power, and unanswered questions. Whether it eventually reveals a broader network is something only evidence can establish. So what do you think? Do you believe the Diddy case is mainly about one powerful celebrity, or do you think investigators should look much deeper into the people and companies around him? Do you think the comparisons with Epstein are useful, or do you think people are connecting two separate stories because they share a few similarities? And when it comes to celebrities, executives, lawyers, and public figures who were part of Diddy's world, how much responsibility should they have for what happened around them? Those questions will remain important as the legal process continues. Maybe future evidence will answer them. Maybe other claims will become stronger. For now, the smartest position is to stay curious without treating speculation as fact. Look for documents. Check reliable reporting. Listen to all sides. And wait for evidence before making a final judgment. That is how a complicated story should be followed. The Diddy case may continue to produce new lawsuits, new interviews, new documentary footage, and new public debates. Every new development could change the picture. But one thing is already clear. The conversation has moved beyond one celebrity. It is now about how money, fame, access, business relationships, and information can create enormous power. That is the part worth watching. Thanks for watching. Stay curious. Stay careful with the information you hear. And I'll see you in the next one.